Hello, and welcome to Communication Skills for Women session. The aim of this session is to assist you in communicating assertively from a position of personal power, knowledge, and confidence. During this presentation, I'll go through a number of communication skills. Some of them will be things you already know, things you are already good at. Some of them will be things you have maybe never thought of, and some of them will be things you are maybe already working on. I'm sure we all know about the importance of verbal and non-verbal communication. The way we speak and present ourselves to others affects not only how we are perceived by others, but also how we feel about ourselves, and it affects our self-confidence. Today, we will cover the communication skills for women in particular. The research shows that 7% of a listener's feelings and attitudes are influenced by your spoken words. 38% of a listener's feelings and attitudes are influenced by your voice and tone. 55% of a listener's feelings and attitudes are influenced by your body language. So, show that you own the room by taking up more physical space. Women have the tendency to want to look smaller and take up less space by crossing their arms and legs, hiding their middle sections, and keeping everything close together. Instead, use purposeful gestures that take up space and draw attention to key content points. And how you can do that? When you're standing, keep your back straight and legs in a V shape to display confidence. Drive home a point using big gestures where your elbows are fully extended. It might feel outrageously big, but these large gestures will add authority if you use them with purpose, for example, when comparing or contrasting. If you are seated at a table, for example, move your weight forward and keep your arms resting on top of the table. When it comes to the tone, it's so easy to slip into upspeak, namely ending sentences on a higher pitch as if they are question marks at the end of each declarative sentence. This gives out an impression that you are unsure about what you're communicating. You're being tentative. So end sentences at the same or lower tone than they begin. If you feel this may be something that you are guilty of, then give this a try. Use your smartphone to audio record your next conference call. Listen to see if it sounds like you're asking questions or making statements. Remember that awareness is the first step to changing the habit. Make an effort to end your sentences in a lower tone than you begin them. Think about putting a period at the end of the sentence. A note of caution here though, make sure you don't remove all the change in pitch and personality in your voice. You should still have a vocal range that changes throughout your sentences. Just think about ending your sentences as statements rather than questions. Well, we all know these pesky little words which get slipped into our narratives, descriptions, presentations, and daily conversations. Here I've listed a couple of examples like, actually, just, so, honestly, truly, literally. Well, the list goes on and on. But you don't have to use them. Instead, you can just pause. All of us have at least one filler word, even if we don't notice it ourselves, others will. It won't take extra time to cut them out, but it will just take extra effort. And here are 2 easy steps to cut out your filler words. Remember that you can't change a habit until you realize it's there. So, firstly, what you need to do is find out what your fillers are. And you can do that by recording a voicemail to yourself and then playing it back. Take notes on what fillers you hear. And obviously, I've listed the most common ones in the presentation. But chances are you use the same filler words as people around you. So once you've done that, practice pausing. When you pause, you'll naturally drop the filler words. Record another voicemail and be intentional about pausing. Challenge yourself to pause for longer than feels comfortable. The average pause is only about half a second, but try and stretch that out to 2 or even 3 seconds. Do these seem familiar? I'm sorry. Oh, sorry about that. Are you okay? Well, women have a tendency to over-apologize. Saying I'm sorry too frequently doesn't come across as overly polite. Instead, it actually weakens your overall message and presence. And at times, it can have an even bigger cost. If you're asking for deadline extension, additional resources, or even a raise, the last thing you want to do is to start your pitch with an I'm sorry. While sometimes an apology is necessary, like for example, if you spill some tea or coffee on someone during a meeting. But most decisions and actions in business don't need an apology. Instead, move on. Say what you mean, say what you need. And here's how you can practice it. So instead of relying on I'm sorry, say what you really mean. You can try it out in a low-risk situation. Like, for example, next time you are in a restaurant and your order comes out wrong, instead of saying, I'm sorry, but I ordered the chicken burrito and I got the steak, drop the I'm sorry and say, please, can you fix my order? I ordered the chicken burrito and I got the steak. Are you asking or requesting? Instead of, how was your day? Try, tell me about your day. Can you see the subtle difference? You will not be asking a question, but instead giving an instruction. And tell me is a good starting point. For example, tell me what you most liked about my presentation. When it comes to setting up a meeting, instead of asking, shall we or can we set up a meeting? Just say, let's set up a meeting. How about Friday at 1 p.m.? This makes you come across as more confident and more directive. So this one is not a rule of thumb. This is not me trying to say, bottle it all up, don't be authentic. This will be appropriate in some situations and not in others. Women can be stereotyped as too emotional. And too often our reactions are not influential in the way we want them to be if we jump to an emotional conclusion, triggering anger, disappointment, resentment, frustration, or something else. Here's what you can do. In certain scenarios, it is best to stick to the concrete details and action steps. Focus on what happened. What do we do now? How can we solve it? Save the how do I feel about this for another time, if that is going to take away from the point you are trying to make. Don't get defensive and don't blame someone else. State the fact of the matter. How you feel may come later once you've processed it. Sometimes how you feel is important and it is the message, but sometimes it doesn't help your response to a situation. And here are some examples of who didn't do it well. And finally, don't defer to someone else. There was a study carried out that found that men typically control the content of the meeting, even 75% of the time. Remember that giving away the opportunity to speak, lead a meeting, or present your work only gives away your power. So seize the opportunity to let your behaviors and ideas shine. Step into the spotlight, as visibility leads to more opportunities. Thank you very much for your time. Have a good day.